Iraq's prime minister, facing an insurgent al-Qaeda affiliate and sectarian strife, went to the White House Friday to appeal to President Barack Obama for new assistance from the United States. Nouri al-Maliki is expected to detail the fresh rise in suicide bombers affiliated with al-Qaeda, which has left more than 6,000 people dead this year alone. And he asked for assistance in the form of weapons, equipment, and intelligence sharing in a bid to quell the bloodshed 2 years after the United States withdrew almost all its troops from Iraq when Baghdad refused to renew a security agreement. Borzou Daragahi covers Iraq as the Middle East and North Africa correspondent for the Financial Times, and he joins us via Skype from Cairo. Borzou, thank you so much for taking some time with us. I do appreciate it. I guess my first question to you is, considering all the complexities that comes along with al-Maliki as well as Iraq in terms of its associations with Iran, with Syria, and so many other things, how realistic are his hopes and desires to get increased aid from the U.S.?
He'll probably get some aid. The Iraqis are willing to pay for some of the equipment that they say they need. There is an alignment of interests in that the U.S. is just as concerned about al-Qaeda spreading from Syria back into Iraq as the Iraqi government is. Iraq produces now 3 million barrels of oil a day. Any disruption to that could affect the U.S. economy by hurting global oil output. It could also create other troubles in the Gulf. So I think he'll get something. He might not get exactly all that he wants.
You know, it occurs to me that this request could have been made on a diplomatic level, even a military level, not necessarily on a face-to-face level. So my question is, how important was this face-to-face meeting today?
Well, I think for Maliki is facing elections in April. In provincial elections earlier this year, his group didn't fare very well. So I think that the opportunity of going to the United States, posing with the U.S. president and other high-ranking U.S. officials, he thinks could boost his political profile. And so I think for him, it's quite important to be able to show that he still has clout in Washington.
You're reporting, as I understand it, you spoke with analysts within Iraq who say that security situation in Iraq is in large part driven by what's going on the ground in Syria. What did these analysts tell you?
I think that's part of it. Part of it is that you have this group. It's called the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. And they're based in Syria, but they're expanding to Iraq as well. They identify as a sort of transnational al-Qaeda affiliated terror group. And you see a lot of attacks that are similar to the ones taking place in Syria, taking place in Iraq now. And so, this threat is very real. I think the problem is that there is a other aspect to the rise of al-Qaeda militants in Iraq, which is not related to Syria, and that is the kind of political dysfunction in Iraq right now, where you have a Shia-dominated government that has very much alienated the Sunni minority. And this has created fertile ground for militancy on the part of those Sunnis who are turning, in some cases, to al-Qaeda.
Yeah, there are some, in fact, that have criticized al-Maliki by saying that this request for aid is simply a smokescreen to distract from his ever authoritarian rule there in Iraq. So my question is, how does Iraq play, or where are they on the scale in terms of destabilizing the region as a whole?
I think they have a pretty, if you ask, I think Maliki has been very, according to most smart people that I know that have been following Iraq very closely, Maliki has been rather incompetent. He's made a lot of mistakes. He has been rather authoritarian and violent even when it comes to the Sunni minority. One thing that he is promising the Americans is that he'll revive the so-called awakening movement. This was a plan to get Sunnis themselves to turn against al-Qaeda that really worked for the Americans. And he has promised that he will revive that. The question is, do Sunnis trust Maliki enough to put their necks out and fight against al-Qaeda on his behalf? Many people doubt that they will.
Indeed. We'll have to leave the conversation right there. Borzou Daragahi, thank you so much. Appreciate it.